Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another sealed Ravnica Mixer. This is a format with 3 packs of Guilds of Ravnica and 3 packs of Ravnica Allegiance, so a sealed format featuring all 10 Guilds of Ravnica. Without further ado, let's bust open these packs and see if we've opened any sweet cards today. Alright, so our rares today are very multicolored, and we've got a lot of somewhat weak rares in my opinion. Like Ravnica Azorius Renegade does not do much in limited, just a hard to cast 2-mana 2/2, so we're probably not going to be casting her. Biomancer's Familiar doesn't do a whole ton unless we get a bunch of adapt cards in our sealed pool. That is the Simic mechanic that allows a creature to spend a certain amount of mana to get a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it. There's Firemind's Research, probably the next weakest one. We need to be playing a deck with a ton of instants and sorceries to get good value off of this. Then we'll get a bunch of charge counters on it and be able to draw some cards or deal some damage with this. It's going to be a pretty strict build route, so not incredibly likely to do a lot of work. But then after that, our next 3 rares are pretty fun and don't require too much work. Our easiest rare to cast is going to be Precognitive Perception, just a great draw spell no matter what we're playing. 5 mana at sorcery speed to scry 3, then draw 3. That is pretty great. And then 5 mana at instant speed to draw 3. We'd much rather cast it at sorcery speed, but it does have that backup plan if we have like a counter spell we really need to hold up the mana for. There's Lasolve the Multifarious, which is pretty fun. You get to surveil 1, and then for X mana, you can have Lasolve become a copy of a creature in your graveyard with mana value X, but retains the ability to swap into a different creature at a later time. So Lasolve isn't incredibly powerful. Lasolve's just incredibly cool and interesting, so really fun to play around with. And then last, but certainly not least, is Azoni Thousand-Eyed. This is a 6 mana 2/3. However, when they enter the battlefield, you get to create a 1/1 black and green insect for each creature card in your graveyard, and you can spend 2 mana to sacrifice another creature to gain a life and draw a card. Really, really bonkers rare there. Not super hard to have some creatures in grave by the time you're casting a 6-drop, and if you have any self-mill, it's going to be even better. So if you have surveil cards from your Dimir, or if you have just a lot of cheap expendable creatures, Zoni's going to be quite a powerful rare. So really multicolored stuff in the rares. Some duds for sure. Ravnica, Firemind's Research, Biomancer's Familiar aren't super likely to pop off, but it is looking like our Sultai rares are looking pretty exciting. So we'll go ahead and jump into the sealed pool, see how our multicolored and colorless cards are looking, see how much mana fixing we have to support what we've got, and see what direction that may take us. So we do have a Simic Guild Gate and a Gateway Plaza for green, blue, and just any color, but not much going on in Simic. We just have a Growth Spiral here to go alongside the Biomancer's Familiar, so not a lot of good, powerful Simic multicolored cards. So unless we have a ton of monocolored adapt cards, Simic doesn't look super exciting. In Selesnya, we have Rosemane Centaur, which is a pretty beefy card, a 5 mana 4/4 Vigilance that you can convoke out for even cheaper. One of the better Selesnya commons, also just a 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance that makes convoking really easy with that hybrid mana cost. Decent little Selesnya creatures, but that's it. 1 Locket, no Guild Gate. Boros has a single Swath Cutter Giant and a Guild Gate, so not much going on there. Gruul looks to be somewhat exciting. We have a removal spell in Gruul, the Savage Smash. This is a really brutal removal spell if you're an aggressive deck, because it's going to give your creature a temporary buff to make it big enough to easily fight an opposing creature, and then it's going to kill that creature, and that buff is going to remain when you go into combat, so you're getting some extra damage done during your turn while still clearing the board to get your creatures through. So Savage Smash is really nice Gruul removal spell. Frenzied Errands is a really great Gruul creature, 4 mana for a 4/4 trample, and you can spend 6 mana to give it +3/+0 until the end of turn. Really, really aggressive creature. Very nice stuff there. Rubble Slinger's just fine, and the Clan Guild Mage is just fine, but we've got a Gruul Guild Gate as well, so pretty big fan of our Gruul overall. We move on to Golgari. We have a Azoni Thousand-Eyed and Golgari Finebroker. Both are pretty great Golgari cards, however, both are also difficult to cast. We need double black and double green, so ideally, if we start looking at our Golgari cards, we're going to want to put all of our mana fixing that we can in, and unfortunately for Golgari, that's a single Golgari Guild Gate, no lockets or anything there. Rakdos is pretty meaningless in the sealed pool. A single Rakdos Roustabout and a single Rakdos Guildgate. We can just kind of brush right on past that. Izzet, though, has a ton of cards. Are they any good, is the question. Hypothesisal's pretty good. A draw spell and a removal spell all in one. Crackling Drake is phenomenal, although pretty difficult to cast. It's a big enough flyer to close out the game, so it's a big threat that also draws you a card when it enters the battlefield. It's a very impressive card. Sonic Assault's a pretty impressive card if you are aggressive. Even on the defensive, I guess at least it taps some things down, but ideally you want to get some good value out of dealing damage to your opponent. Piston Fist Cyclops is a great little Izzet common. Firemind's Research, of course, if we have enough Izzet instants and sorceries to go with it, will be pretty good. So, I mean, I like that we've got, 5 solid Izzet cards here that we could all stack into a deck and then just play a bunch of, like, blue-red spells. We do have the one Izzet Guildgate as well. So Izzet does look pretty cool. When we move on to Dimir, we just have Darkblade Agent and Lazov. Pretty empty in Dimir. Ideally, if we have a ton of just monocolored blue and black Surveil, then we could potentially get Darkblade Agent to go off, but it's not looking super likely when it comes to our multicolored cards. Orzhov, we have Grasping Thrall being a really nice flyer, and Viscopa Vampire being pretty filler, very low toughness. And then Azorius, we just have Azorius Skyguard and double Senate Griffin, some solid Azorius flyers. So I really like Izzet quite a bit. I like that Sultai gives us a few powerful rares, but we need a lot of good monocolored stuff to make that work. We've got our Azoni, our Golgari Finebroker, our Lazov, our mono blue rare. If we go Sultai, problem is we don't have any Dimir Guildgate, but we do have a Golgari Guildgate and a Simic Guildgate, and a Gateway Plaza towards that. So if we just want to play all of our rares, Sultai still looks okay, but it's not really gaining anything in the non-rare slot in terms of multicolored cards. Our most consistent guild definitely looks like Izzet here. So we're going to want to take a look at both of those strategies. So we're just going to move on backwards through the colors now, take a look at our green for a potential Sultai build. Soarform Hybrid's an excellent common, a 2-mana 2/2 that turns into your endgame creature. 6 mana to adapt it into a 6/6. Solana Wayfinder is okay. You get a creature or a land from the top 4, put it on top, and the rest on bottom in any order, so it kind of sets up your draw in a way there for whatever you need. Prey Upon's fine with enough creatures. Gift of Strength's pretty filler, Sundew's pretty filler, Boar's also pretty filler, but at least it attacks. Titanic Brawl is definitely pretty filler. A lot of very filler green stuff, and then we just have like Siege Worm as a big endgame trampler. Yeah, our mono green cards are not super strong. Arboretum Elemental can be pretty annoying with that hexproof, but it doesn't actually look like there's a whole ton going on in green. However, we move back onto red now, and we have very few red cards. If we put every red card in the deck, we have 9 of them. And there are multiple I would really prefer not to play. Burn Bright is not going to be good unless you have an incredibly creature-heavy deck. Book Devourer is just very expensive for how big it is. 6 mana for a 4/5 trample, not a great deal there. Fearless Halberdier is just a 3 mana 3/2 with absolutely no other text. That's also not a great deal. And then we're running 4 combat tricks, one of which is Sorcery Speed, which is really bad. Yeah, red looks unfortunately super empty, even though our Izzet cards look great. But then moving on to black, black also looks very empty. However, I think I like the card quality of our black cards better than the card quality of our red cards, even though they're pretty much just as few. We could have double Grudian for some nice little cheap Death Touchers, Dead Revels to pick up 2 creatures from our grave to hand, essentially a draw 2, and then like an Undercity Scavenger, which if we sacrifice a creature when we play it, it gets to be a 5/5 and scry 2 when it enters, which is pretty good. We could play like a Child of Night, I guess, just to have something early game. Black is like fine, but again, very few black cards. Moving on to blue, at least it looks like we have a good variety of blue cards and white cards for that matter. Maybe we are going to go just like blue-white Azorius Flyers here, just because that is where we have the most support in our sealed pool. I'm definitely seeing some cards that would help for that. Anyways, taking a look at blue, Fairy Duelist is a pretty good card. 2 mana for a flash 1/2 flyer. Sometimes this enter the battlefield effect will let you win a combat. Say they attack with a 2/1 and then you flash out a Duelist, make it a 0/1 and block it. It's always going to be a good time. Unexplained Disappearance is a nice piece of interaction because you do get to surveil when you play it. Clear the Mind is good if you're playing a very long grindy game and you have 2 copies to where you can keep shuffling your whole grave back in. It's going to set up your draws if you've cast a bunch of removal that goes straight to the grave, a bunch of instants and sorceries in particular. It's really going to set up your draws because you keep shuffling them back into your deck and upping your non-land count every time you do that to make it more likely that you hit gas while your opponent doesn't. So Clear the Mind is an option depending on how things look here. But I'm kind of thinking we might be playing a pretty creature-heavy, aggressive blue-white flyers deck here. Capture Sphere is great removal. Chemist's Insight's a wonderful draw spell. Muse Drake's a perfect kind of flyer for what we're hoping to do here in blue-white. 4 mana, 1/3 flyer, and we draw a card when we play it. Senate Courier is pretty good as well. A flyer that can get Vigilance. It's a 1/4 body for only 3. Precognitive Perception is an excellent draw spell. Skitter Eel's a fine creature. 4 mana for a 3/3. Adapt it into being a 5/5 for only 3. And then we have the big flyers at 5 mana. Watcher in the Mist, a premium common from Guilds of Ravnica. 5 mana, 3/4 flyer that surveils 2 when it hits the board. Wonderful card. And Windstorm Drake, a big reason to be blue-white flyers here. A 5 mana, 3/3 flyer that gives all of your other creatures flying +1/+0. Swirling Torrent we could put in if we need just like a big top-end bounce spell. Put a creature on top of its owner's library and return a creature to its owner's hand. Does really slow down our opponent. But I'm going to move over to Azorius here and start putting in these other flyers before we put in the white cards. Alright, now let's move on to white. We've got Healer's Hawk at 1 mana, a 1 mana 1/1 flying lifelink. Really nice card, super hard for your opponent to race because you're just going to play this turn 1 and start gaining life every turn of the game from then on. Resolute Watchdog's pretty nice. It can block all the 2 power creatures your opponent has on the ground just all day long, and then you can use this to save one of your creatures from a removal spell later in the game. So that's going to be pretty perfect for us. Concordia Pegasus is great, it's 2 mana 1/3 flyer. Summary Judgment is solid instant speed removal. Luminous Bonds is great removal. Angelic Exaltation can be alright with a little bit of token production and just a lot of creatures in general to just be jamming in with one creature. Say your deck that has a ton of defenders on the ground and just like one big flying attacker, then you're going to get some good value off this, but it looks like most of our creatures are going to be flyers that can just be jamming in there, so I don't know how well Exaltation is going to work here. It could still be fine, but we're definitely going to play double Spirit of the Spires and probably Flight of Equinox. Then we still have room for 2 more cards. We could throw in double Clear the Mind. We could throw in a Swirling Torrent. We could throw in that Angelic Exaltation. Even an Impassioned Order just to have more early game creatures. Could move into a red splash, but our red is going to be a little difficult to splash because our strongest red card that I'd like in here would be the Crackling Drake. And we don't actually have that many instants or sorceries in here for that, do we? I hate this new UI. 4 instants. Yeah, we don't have enough to want to justify splashing in a double red card, but we could still try to splash in just like a hypothesis, I guess, for a little more removal. But that also seems a bit weird. There's no reason to play Lavinia, is there? Each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with mana value greater than the number of lands. Whenever they cast a spell, they spend no mana counter. Oh yeah, there's absolutely no reason to play Lavinia. The 2 mana 2/2 that gains life is way better than Lavinia. Play a 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance in here, just a white and 1 for a 2/2 Vigilance. Already considering a white and 1 for a 2/2. It just occasionally gains life. Yeah, this seems like by far just where we have the most cards and the most synergies. We've got double Spirit of the Spires to buff our flyers, a Windstorm Drake to buff our flyers, and just a lot of flyers in general with a decent little bit of removal alongside them. I'm liking the blue-eyed flyers build here. Alright, so here's the final build we're going to roll with today. A pretty classic blue-white flyers deck. We're going to be joining the Azorius Senate to try to close out the games with a bunch of evasive creatures. We have a bit of good removal as well. Capture Sphere and Luminous Bonds can take pretty much any creature out. And then Summary Judgment can take the small stuff out. An Unexplained Disappearance to slow down our opponent. We've got a lot of nice early game just creatures on the ground to kind of muck the board state up. Get some blockers in there in the early game. And then just a lot of big flyers at 4 mana and up. A lot of 3 power and more flyers coming down to try to close things out. So pretty classic blue-white flyers deck, and I'm excited to see how it does. So let's hop into the gameplay. Alright, here we are in game 1. We have an early game Fairy Duelist. We have both of our colors. Great late game plays. Definitely going to keep this hand here. Hoping not to flat out too hard. And Resolute Watchdog is a great start. Excellent draw. Give us some more early game action. Whoa. That kind of broke my brain for a second. They dropped that and I thought they just put a card down face down in their land zone, but that's that island just has a very similar color to their dog skins. Alright, so a mill deck here a bit. Hey, they milled our Chemist's Insight. It's not too bad for us. They're blue, green, and black is what we know so far. The Golgari cards can definitely care about milling yourself to get some creatures engraved, but I guess they don't have a lot of undergrowth. Gatebreaker Ram's probably one of the strongest uncommons in this format with the amount of gates there are for whatever you're playing. I don't think Fairy Duelist is going to get much work done for us, but we don't have a 3-drop anyway. We'll probably play it turn 3 and just stop a tiny bit of Gatebreaker Ram damage that way. Could stop enough damage from the Gatebreaker Ram to block it with a Watchdog. And stop all 3 of the damage. Alright, they're stuck on 3 mana. Here's our 4 mana for Muse Drake here. Rather do that than Chemist's Insight, because we already have the 5th land we need to start dropping 5-drops. We can play Chemist's Insight as like our last play once we run out of everything else to do. Alright, we're going to be racing now. Windstorm Drake should make that very possible. If our opponent does not have cheap removal. And then even if they do, Azorius Skyguard's going to make it possible again by weakening the rest of their board. Maybe I want to go with Watcher in the Mist first, because they haven't had this cast a removal spell the whole game. Yeah, if they have removal in hand, they've definitely still got it, because they haven't spent any removal. And this way I can play Windstorm Drake on turn 6 while still holding up the 6th mana to sacrifice the Watchdog to save it if I want to. And I could use another just random flyer like Senate Courier. And this way, Watcher in the Mist also has high enough toughness to block Gatebreaker Ram if they do not have their removal. And Slimebind does not fully kill the Watcher in the Mist, so I'm pretty okay with it. Ooh, except they drew the next gate. Now I'm less okay with it. Still think we can outrace pretty well here. Especially now that we're getting Windstorm Drake down this turn. We have more than enough creatures to block that Gatebreaker Ram once or twice to win the race. We could definitely block it with a Watcher in the Mist. It's not accomplishing anything else for us, and we don't have enchantment removal. Carrion Imp, they get to gain a couple life by exiling a creature in a grave when they cast it. It's also a 2/3 flyer, which is really annoying. Do hit another land. I'm going to play this even though I have Chemist's Insight because I want to have the Resolute Watchdog mana up. Unfortunately, Carrion Imp's still really annoying here, even though it's not big enough to kill my Fairy Duelist anymore. It's still big enough to survive blocking one of my 2-power creatures. So we're only getting in with one of those 2. We're going down to 8 now. And they're going to scoop them up. I guess no removal in hand to deal with this gigantic field of flyers. They get to chump block the Skyguard, take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pretty close to lethal there. Not quite there yet. But I guess just no action in their hand, so 1-0 it shall be. Alright, game 2 now. Definite Keeper again. Turn 2 for Naughty Shieldmate. We just need to hit any one land to cast our 4 drops on turn 4. And we've got a lot of them. So Shieldmate on the board. We're playing against a blue deck here. Blue and red, so is it? And a Fire Urchin coming down, a 1/3 trample. That is going to wall off our Vernati Shieldmate here. And if they cast a single instant or sorcery, it'll get +1/+0 until end of turn. So it'll be a 2/3 as an attacker. Pretty impressive stats on this current board. And Tajik is going to be a really bad time for us, because Tajik is going to mentor up the Fire Urchin, make it a permanent 2/4, and trade into the Vernati Shieldmate. So we've got a 2/4 on their board. We could just play a 3/3 Skitter Eel here. But if they play a single instant or sorcery, they can still attack in. We could also play Spirit of the Spires, just as a big chunky flyer. Or we could just capture the Fire Urchin, but we probably want to save Capture Fear for something bigger. I kind of want to just play Senate Griffin here. I feel like no matter what we play, we could pretty easily end up in a spot where we're not blocking Fire Urchin. So might as well play the play that sets up our draws and attempts to outrace the Fire Urchin with more power than it has. Goblin Electromancer. Some great Izzet cards for sure from our opponent. Now their instants and sorceries cost 1 less, so that is a Light Up a Stage for only 2, and a Scorch Mark for only 1, a Radical Idea for only 1. Their next turn is going to be insane, and of course Scorch Mark exactly big enough to kill the Senate Griffin. Some pretty great draws off the Light Up the Stage. This game is looking to run away from us here. We're going to have to cast Spirit of the Spires here to protect the Senate Griffin from that Scorch Mark that we know about. I don't think we're blocking it all next turn because we know they have a Scorch Mark. So we'll send in the Senate Griffin here. So they definitely get to Radical Idea. We might have held them off with a Scorch Mark though, because unless they have another bit of damage to stack onto it, it is not going to get there. It's not going to remove any of our creatures. Okay, they are still going to Scorch Mark for the buff on Fire Urchin. We'll see if they have the follow-up damage post-combat. Nope. Alright, just for the Fire Urchin buff. Just trying to outrace us here. Send these in. Drop a Watcher in the Mist. As long as they don't have 5 damage to kill Watcher in the Mist, we can block their Fire Urchin with this for sure. A 3/5. Alright, well, gotta cast multiple spells or a burn spell here to kill the Watcher in the Mist. They go for Sphinx's Insight, that's 3 power. Radical ID would be 4 power, they need to cast 2 more spells here. Radical Idea for the 4th power. 2 mana up, a red and a white. Did not quite get there. Watcher in the Mist still with 1 toughness at the end of that turn. I've got the 6 mana. They're just going to scoop them up, alright. Since I'm probably going to attack all in the sky and then capture Sphere the Fire Urchin on the ground, or maybe Skitter Eel here. It looks like we get that one. The idea here is we just attack with all our flyers 2 turns in a row to close it out. They clearly didn't have more removal because they probably would have used it to stay more aggressive with Fire Urchin coming in. So yeah, that'll be 2-0 here for the Flyers deck. Spirit of the Spires putting in a lot of work there, saving us from that Scorch Mark. That would have been really bad had they cleared out our Senate Griffin with that. So this hand is mono blue, which could be a problem, but we do have very castable 4 and 5 drops, and we're on the draw, so I'm going to keep it. It's definitely a risky one. But we do hit the plains immediately, which is perfect. We can get our Resolute Watchdog down turn 1, not that it's not going to do much blocking against a Death Toucher. I guess we could still block it. Just trade their Death Toucher off for a 1-3 instead of one of our later game creatures. Looks like they don't even want to offer that trade, and now we've drawn Summary Judgment to kill the Death Toucher, so now I'm super happy because we can just throw this at the Hired Poisoner the second it attacks. Deal 3 damage to a tapped creature. Keep our Resolute Watchdog on the board so that we have a way to protect our big flyers from removal from the black deck that probably has a lot of removal. So Dimir it is. We see 2 Swamps and a Dimir Guildgate. Dimir Informant being the turn 3 play. Excellent card. Looks like Grixis, because there's a Beacon Bolt into the grave. They can discard a card to recast that from grave to deal damage to a creature equal to the number of instants and sorceries in their graveyard and exile. So really good with Surveil, really good with just a lot of cheap instant sorcery spells. And I'd assume they're playing a Mountain of Removal in a Grixis color pair there. And we do just get rid of that. Get rid of that Death Toucher right away. Send in a 1/4 Dimir Informant. If I'm going to use a combat trick to kill our Watchdog, I guess that's fine. No idea what this could be here. I just want to deadweight a Watchdog badly. It's kind of weird, but I'm cool with it. Senate Griffin is the play, and now they don't have a deadweight in hand to kill that. I'll have to spend a bigger removal spell. I do want that 5th mana for Watcher in the Mist, for sure. Unexplained Disappearance, just put it back into our hand. Well, that is 1 instant in their graveyard, so Beacon Bolt is doing 1 damage now. So they only need to cast 1 more instant or sorcery for it to be lethal against a Senate Griffin. And unfortunately, Serra Angel is still an incredible card by modern limited standards. A 5 mana 4/4 Flying Vigilance. We do have Fairy Duelist to find the kill on that if they don't have instants up. So I think that's probably the plan here. So we cast Watcher in the Mist, dig for just hard removal if we can. Looks like we're going to have to just hit Precognitive Perception, because I'm not going to surveil that. And then if our Watcher in the Mist is still on the board by the next time they attack with their Serra Angel, we just attempt to Fairy Duelist to kill it. They do hit the red source for the Beacon Bolt. This is going to be the most obvious Fairy Duelist in the world, but maybe they'll still jam in. It's going to be obvious because they know we have Senate Griffin in hand since they bounced one of our cards. But Beacon Bolt is a sorcery, so if they attack, they still run right into it. Unfortunately, Law Mage's Binding will get us a pretty good draw. We take 5 now. Kind of have to play Fairy Duelist right now, don't we? But then they Beacon Bolt it. They don't have a blue mana up, they can't Beacon Bolt it right now. But they'd Beacon Bolt during their turn to kill our Senate Griffin anyway. So we can't plan to just go Fairy Duelist into Senate Griffin and have 4 power flyers. We can't do that. We have to just like draw 3. Hope to draw hard removal. We do have a lot of it. Or not a lot of it, we do have some of it in this deck. And we did hit Unexplained Disappearance, which is pretty perfect. That'll permanently kill their flyer. And let us surveil 1 here. So we've got 6 mana. We can do that as well as play Spirit of the Spires, which is big enough to survive Beacon Bolt. We don't want to play Senate Griffin because it's not big enough to survive Beacon Bolt. I guess we could do Skitter Eel here instead. So if they do have removal, using it on something weak here. Oh, and there's Capture Sphere on the top too, so we've got even more hard removal. Alright, cool. Well, glad I went for the Skitter Eel first, so Spirit of Spires is still going to be around. Spirit of the Spires is going to be a 2/4. Sure. Beacon Bolt is at 3 damage, so they are 1 damage off from killing the Spirit of the Spires. Let's just bounce it to our hand. Okay. They draw a card. Now they're at the 4 damage they need. We're just going to go ahead and use Fairy Duelist now, so we can actually start attacking them and stop all this damage here. Rakdos Trumpeter, that's a pretty big deal. I probably have to Capture Sphere that. Don't have the mana to Capture Sphere and play Spirit of the Spires, though. So just Capture Sphere and Healer's Hawk. They probably... Maybe they Beacon Bolt the Healer's Hawk. But if they do, they know they're not Beacon Bolting Spirit of the Spires or Senate Griffins, so I think that's a fine time for us. I'm actually going to hold Fairy Duelist off. I'd probably rather block 1 point of damage than deal 1 point of damage when they're at 20 and we're at 9. But yeah, it's possible they want to Beacon Bolt Healer's Hawk just because it's got lifelink, and they only have 1 power on the board, and we're at 9. So Healer's Hawk will put a lot of work into getting us out of range from their 1 power creatures killing us. Just past the turn. Azorius Skyguard is beautiful. We definitely want to play that like last, though. We want that to be as safe as can be. Yeah, again, Beacon Bolt can kill anything we cast here, so we probably just want to cast Senate Griffin for its good enter the battlefield effect, so even if it dies, we're getting value out of it. Scry that land away. Holding onto this land to jumpstart Chemister's Insight, but I guess when we cast Chemister's Insight, we're drawing 2 more cards, so we're really likely to hit another land. And if I play the land right now and then I top deck a land next turn, I can spend 8 mana, meaning I can cast Spirit of the Spires and Chemister's Insight. So we're probably supposed to play the land here, and we probably should have even played it last turn, just in case we hit a land last turn. But yeah, we're probably actively trying to hit 8 mana, and then we'll be discarding a card to jumpstart Chemister's Insight. Alright, Beacon Bolt the Senate Griffin. 2 cards in their hand, double black and a white up. They are blue, black, white, and red. Alright, another Spirit of the Spires. Cool, 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 cool. Not enough mana to cast both. Good Chemister's Insight, attempting to hit a land to cast one of them if we want to get a little greedy here. I think I do. I'm going to get a bit greedy. See if we can hit that 8th land. We do. Beautiful. So the 9th land is the one we'll discard to Chemister's Insight. Now that we're gaining 1 life every turn off Healer's Hawk, we're pretty free to attack with everybody. We're gaining as much life as we potentially take from Dimir Informant. Severed Strands. This is very much just all of the removal in their sealed pool, feels like, is the deck plan. If they've got Clear the Mines, this is going to be a really tough match. But if they don't, I think we are very much looking to start winning the game here. Spirit of the Spires. Up our toughness again. Just get a Concordia Pegasus. Oh, and Shield Mate. We actually, yeah, we do have 8 mana. We've got enough for all of it. We've got a Wrath effect. They can put things back to an even board state. We just both have nothing. Both have 1 card in hand. But we've got a Chemister's Insight engraved, so even then we're doing pretty well. So we're not getting it on the ground, that's for sure. Just send in with everybody in the sky. And we're not going to Chemister's Insight discarding a Luminous Bonds or an Azorius Skyguard, so we'll cast the Skyguard. And unfortunately, I don't really want to kill the Racketeers because it's going to give them 2 1/1 flying blockers. But I don't have much of a choice if they attack. Because if I don't kill it, then I have to discard a card, discarding Luminous Bonds. Alright, super easy trade, because Shieldmate is never getting in. The only problem, again, is that they get the flyers to block with. They're 0/1 because Skyguard, which is pretty great, but they're still blockers. Alright, so we hit our land for Insight. See what we've got. Muse Drake or Luminous Bonds. We Luminous Bonds the flyer that actually has power to send in with everybody else. Try to end this game as quickly as possible here. Before they can draw into an out. Like an Ethereal Absolution or something. They do have white mana. But looks like that could have been also for splashing the Warden. Alright, so they did get rid of our Skyguard, so these are 1/1s again, meaning they can double block a Healer's Hawk to kill it, I guess. It's kind of rough. Let's Muse Drake here. Not really worried about milling out. They're at 8 life. I don't see how we could kill them that slowly. I guess I should have sent it Griffin first. Yeah, I could have Scryed before the draw. That would have been smarter. Passioned Order. No thanks. 2/2 on the ground. Not really doing it for me here. They are at 4 life, meaning they are dead in the sky next turn. And there's a concession, no removal drawn that time. So 3-0 for Blue-White Flyers. Teaming up with the Azoria Senate has worked out pretty well for us today. Alright, here we are in round 4. Unfortunately, this hand is much less keepable for a mono-colored hand because we've got a ton of white cards in this one, so we're going to mulligan this. And I guess we'll keep this mono-colored hand and get rid of the 8-drop. And we're just mono-white this time. Really don't want to mold a 5 on the play. Kind of have to cross our fingers here that we'll just hit a couple lands by turn 4. There's one of them. So we're only 1 land away from casting a couple Spirit of the Spires at the least. But yeah, this is pretty rough. Being down a card on the play is always a really bad time because we also draw second. Our opponent is the first one to draw. Alright, Blade Instructor. We might have to just trade our Watchdog into that. We probably do, because we don't hit our 4th land turn 4. Skatewing Spy is a really bad deal for us. Really, really bad time. All of their creatures with +1/+1 counters on them have flying, and they have mentor cards to put counters on their creatures. So Skatewing Spy is a really, really bad time. Even by itself, it's a 4/5 flyer, which is bigger than all of our flyers. So our opponent has blue, green, white, black. We have white. There's Chillbringer. Now Blade Instructor gets to get in and send Skatewing Spy into the sky with its mentor ability. We can respond with Summary Judgment to kill it before it resolves at least. So at least we've gotten rid of the Skatewing Spy here. But we are going to get hit pretty hard. We don't even have a Watchdog to block with now. We have drawn the blue source. Alright, we're maybe in it. We get to cast a 2/4 flyer, which is big enough to block either of their attackers. But again, they have 4 colors up. 5 colors available. So likely to have removal if they need it. But they don't need it because they cast a Windstorm Drake to make Chillbringer a 4/3 to attack past our 2/4. Still on 4 mana here. We could cast another Spirit of the Spires to have a couple 2/5 flying blockers. Give us a moment to attempt to stabilize. Scuttlegator is the play. They're only 1 mana away from adapting that to be able to attack with a 9/9. We can chump block if Watchdog if they hit the mana for that. Let's play a Senate Griffin so that we can put something on the board while still setting up our draws. And now we just need to set up to draw a removal spell. We need a Capture Sphere or something. So I think I even need to put this island on the bottom even though it lets us hit Watcher in the Mist. Because even if we can get a Watcher in the Mist on the board, it's not going to do much for us if Scuttle Gator is hitting us for 9. Debtor's Transport. Oh my god. Yeah, they've just got all the big things in the world. We are getting punished pretty hard for our slow start. Just give our opponent all the time they need to start dropping 9/9s and 5/3s. And I think we Chemister's Insight here. We hit some lands at least so we can play a Healer's Hawk. Don't have a great attack. But trading into one of their cards wouldn't be the end of the world, but we're at 13. Don't think that's where we're at. Renati Shieldmate from our opponent. Little 2/2 Vigilance. Final payment. They're going to sack the 2/2 Vigilance to kill one of our Spirits of the Spires. And attack with a Debtor's Transport and a Chillbringer. Well, easy trade for the Chillbringer. The Debtor's Transport is a much different story though, because it'll spit out 2 1/1 flyers when it dies, and with Windstorm Drake they'll both be 2/1 flyers, so we're just going to take 5 for now. Alright, Azorius Skyguard is very helpful at dealing with the potential 1/1 flyers they could get. Plus it's First Strike to block well. So now our main concern is Scuttle Gator, and they have the mana to upgrade it. Alright, so easy block on Debtor's Transport. Scuttle Gator is a much different story though. Doesn't have Trample, does it? Does not have Trample, so I can chump block here. If I chump block with Watchdog, I don't have anything to protect Azorius Skyguard, which is our most important card on board. I feel like I have to chump block with Healer's Hawk. Alright, we need to dig. We need Capture Sphere yesterday. So, or Luminous Bonds as well works. So we Chemister's Insight here. Chemister's Insight digs us 2 cards deep and puts the card immediately into hand, whereas Watcher in the Mist digs 2 cards deep but doesn't put the card in hand. Is it better to just Watcher in the Mist? So we just have another blocker? And we're digging just as far, we're just not putting it in our hand immediately? It might be. At 9 life here, it's probably better to Watcher in the Mist. This also digs us 2 cards deep. Cognitive Perception. Blue, 1, 2, 3. We'll have 3 mana up for a Luminous Bond, so we could use that. Scry 3, draw 3, just digging for Luminous Bonds. I guess I'll keep it. Dig for Luminous Bonds with it next turn. Because that digs 6 cards deep. If Luminous Bonds is in our top 6, that card will get us there. I honestly think Resolute Watchdog's more important than Spirit of the Spires here. But is Watcher in the Mist more important than Spirit of the Spires? It has enough power to beat Windstorm Drake. Spirit of the Spires does not. I think it is. I think Watcher in the Mist is more important. Oh no, is this Dead Rebels to pick up 2 creatures from grave? We're just getting absolutely manhandled this game. Rock Charger. Give another attacking creature flying when they attack with it. Well, luckily all our chump blockers are flying anyway, so Even if they give Scuttlegator flying, we just block as we've been doing. They are really eyeballing their graveyard. They're giving it the cartoon eyes. Yeah, Dead Revels is horrible. Debtor's Transport and Skatewing Spy. So now Scuttlegator just has natural flying. They're just running circles around us with card advantage of picking up 2 immensely powerful cards. I mean, technically we're getting more cards, we're just not getting the right cards. Our opponent is very much doing so. Alright, well, we did what we could. We dug 6 cards deep looking for that Luminous Bonds, and it was nowhere to be seen. Maybe we already used it and I just forgot? No. Only removal we've used is Summary Judgment, so we still have a Capture Sphere and a Luminous Bonds in here somewhere. We're not quite dead next turn, but it's going to be a really bad turn for us. Well, that's interesting. Just go for the attack before giving it flying or anything. I guess we do get to block with the Watchdog then. Maybe they want to get the Watchdog killed, so they send that attack in to tempt us with that as an option. Let's dig another 2 cards deep. I guess we've cast Chemist's Insight, Watcher in the Mist, and Precognitive Perception. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cards we've dug, actually. So there's 14 cards dug, and it's not there. Neither of them are there, actually. Did we scry one to the bottom at some point? No. No, we're just having a bad time. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this game. We don't have a shot here at this point. They have multiple must-kill threats, and we cannot kill all of them. Skatewing Sky, or Spy, even with our Skyguard out, is going to be a 3/4 flyer. I guess that doesn't get in until we get rid of they get rid of the Watcher in the Mist. But yeah, their board is wide enough. They're just closing this game out. Oh no, Skatewing Spy is a 4/4 flyer because of their Windstorm Drake. So yeah, Skatewing Spy is big enough to attack in and kill our stuff on blocks. So we have to chump block one of our best creatures. We have to chump block both, probably. Just have no board state. They might even have lethal that turn. That was a really rough one. We had some pretty bad openers. I hope for the best off the mold of 6, but took quite a while to get the second color, and our opponent was just already running laps around us. Desperately grasping for straws, but not really getting anywhere that game. Alright, so here we are in round 5, 3-1 so far. Really great hand here. 1 mana away from Senate Griffin, Capture Sphere. We've got that nice late game Azorius Skyguard and an early game Unexplained Disappearance if our opponent is very aggressive. Opponent's on Jeskai, blue, red, and white, and we are 100% going to Unexplained Disappearance, the hero of Precinct 1. I don't want to just sit here and get demolished by a ton of little 1/1 tokens every time they cast a spell. So we milled the 2-drop flyer off our Unexplained Disappearance because we have a good curve it's not going to fit into. We're going to cast our 3-drop, then we're going to go 4th land 4-drop. So we'd rather just hit pretty much anything else, lands or just more expensive spells there. So cast a Rock Charger here now. Let's get a Senate Griffin out. That's enough power to kill the Rock Charger on an attack. Plus it scries to try to hit the 5th land. There it is. Getting towards our Azorius Skyguard. Syndicate Messenger now. That is really bad, because that can trade into the Senate Griffin and leave behind a 1/1 flyer. We might want to Capture Sphere that. It's going to be a 2-for-1. Let's just not deal with that. That is 1 Capture Sphere down for a scarier creature later. But their Jeskai. Scariest things I can think of out of Jeskai are just going to be more mid-range flyers like Syndicate Messenger, really. And now we do have a Summary Judgment at least. Although, would have been really happy to see a land there. Let's go for a Skitter Eel here. Sphinx's Insight. Gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, get a 1/1. Phenomenal deal thanks to Hero of Precinct 1. We're just jamming. Just jamming in. Alright, if they've got a 1-mana burn spell to kill Senate Courier, I'm cool with that 1-for-1 trade. They do not. Azorius Skyguard's going to be pretty beautiful here. We don't need to pre-combat it. We're at 19. Yeah, we can just jam all. We can absolutely jam all. If they double block Skitter Eel, I guess we have to adapt, but I'm very fine with killing the hero and the 1/1. I'm just holding up Summary Judgment instead. Alright, if they've got removal, this Azorius Skyguard is getting out of here because that card is incredibly impactful. We have slammed a Lightning Rod for removal onto the table. And hoped that it's not a stormy night. I mean, we've got first strike, so this has to be a really good combat trick. I guess it only has to be a +2/+2 combat trick, so there's no reason to block here. There's a lot of +2/+2 combat tricks in the format. Deafening Clarion. For the one-sided board wipe with 5 cards left in hand, or not the one-sided, for the full board wipe with 5 cards left in hand. I say one-sided because I do get to leave behind a Spirit, but we get to leave behind a Senate Courier, so a very even board wipe. But we definitely committed a lot more to the board. They've got 5 cards left in hand. It's probably game. Board wipes in Limited are often just going to end it, because they're pretty much always a 3, 4, 5 for 1 there. So we lost out on 3 cards. Lost out on... I guess we lost out on the same amount of cards, but I lost a 6-drop, a 4-drop, and another 4-drop that could be a 5/5 later. And they gained a 1/1 flyer and lost like a 2-drop, a 3-drop, and another 3-drop. That unfortunately has Vigilance, meaning it will never die to our Summary Judgment. Alright, well, we are out of steam, so we definitely need to draw some gas. We are completely at the mercy of our top deck, a position I despise being in. That's why I love just like blood token mechanics and Scry and Surveil and all that kind of stuff. And card advantage generally. Azorius Night Arbor also has Vigilance, so Summary Judgment is just useless in this matchup. We're just getting slammed by unblockable creatures. Big old 3/6 that comes with a 1/1. Doesn't really affect the board at all, but it is cool. Alright, we're just going to continue the Azorius Night Arbiter getting in for 2 game. I'm going to throw a burn spell. This is really weird. I can't think of a single card that would make them want to attack with Watchful Giant, but not Sphinx of New Prov. Because if it's something that's going to do a damage to Seneca, you would just attack with Sphinx of Prov as well. I guess now we can double block the Sphinx. Never mind. Yeah, I mean, let's just see what it is here. Scorch Mark, sure. Another giant vigilant threat. Summary Judgment is abysmal in this matchup. Oh my god. And we just got more lands. I'm out of this one. We have more draw steps to survive, but we're not going to win that game. We go down to 6. We have to chump block with our whole board because we have to chump block a 6/7. We have to chump block a 4/3 flyer. We actually go below 6 because we have to make chump blocks there. And there's not a single card we could top deck to get out of that. We unfortunately do not have a Wrath. So we get eviscerated by the Deafening Clarion for round 5. Mana's back to being rude to us, so we're definitely going to mulligan that. And this looks much better. We probably have to get rid of Azorius Skyguard here, sadly. Alright, and our curve is looking really spicy. Senate Courier on 3, Senate Griffin on 4. Priest of Forgotten Gods, turn 2 from our opponent. That's a little scary. If they get a lot of creatures out. It's okay for now. Alright, they're stuck on 2 mana there. There's the 3rd mana. As long as they don't play something that spits out a token when it comes into play, I'm pretty fine. But if they play like a 3 mana 2/2 that comes with a 1/1 token, I will be terrified. Plague Crafter is the play. Each player sacrifices a creature. Probably have to just sack the Watchdog here. They're going to sacrifice their 1/2 to keep their 3/2 around. Fortunately, we have not hit a land drop this game, so we don't get to cast our 4 drops on turn 4. Let's go Orator here, offer the trade with the Plague Crafter. Unfortunately, our opponent is Golgari, which means they do get value from having creatures in grave. Alright, well, neither player this game is having a particularly good time when it comes to mana. The variance of Magic definitely showing up these last few games of this sealed. Atrana the Silencer. So when that hits us, they just kill one of our creatures. It's like kind of annoying. We just bounce her, or just let them kill a 1/3 or a 1/4. I think we just let them kill one of these. Cast a Chemist's Insight. I don't want to cast Senate Griffin because I don't want to let them kill a 3/2 flyer. Alright, they're going to kill the Senate Courier and shuffle a Trotta back, and then play a Trollbred Guardian. We can spend 2 to toss that back in their hand here. That will be lovely. Don't need to do it yet. Spend all our mana on Watcher in the Mist first, then if we had a 6th mana, we can cast Senate Griffin and Unexplained Disappearance in the same turn. Pretty great. We could take a big hit from this Guardian. We could take the 7. We need a land here. Badly enough, I'm just going to say goodbye to all that. Dimir Spybug, a 1/1 Flying Menace. If they surveil, it will get bigger. Pretty hard to hit enough surveil to do a lot with that, but as you can see, they do at least make it a 2/2 Flying Menace, which is a pretty powerful card for 2 mana. Mill a Scuttle Gator, keep a card on the top there. Okay, so now I'm going to cast Senate Griffin, but I think I'm just going to hold Fairy Duelist mana up here. Potentially beat this Spybug. So, if they go for like a big Spybug attack, maybe we can Fairy Duelist and kill it. And if they just send in a big old Trollbred Guardian, we can just bounce it still, since they're both instant speed. Alright, just a Trollbred Guardian. See if we can put that in their hand then. Ooh, Windstorm Drake is huge. They're at 12 life? Yeah, that's big. Just really big play here. We're actually both at 12 life. Very even game for the round 6 here. Could be the final round if we lose. We just get a 50-50 out of this one. Oof, Deadly Visit to go with Dimir Spybug's pretty huge. Spybug's now a 3/3. They kill our best creature. At least the Deadly Visit won't be around for our Windstorm Drake now. If they want to trade Senate Griffin into Spybug, I'm pretty okay with that. So I'm going to play Windstorm Drake pre-combat so we get an extra damage if they don't want to take that trade. Rather than be like, well, if they do want to take the trade, I can make it not work for them. Because they probably don't want to take that trade, as you can see there. Even giving it an extra power, they didn't want to take that trade. So they get rid of our Flight of Equinox or our Fairy Duelist here. I actually think Fairy Duelist is more important because Flight of Equinox isn't castable without tapping multiple of our creatures. We're not going to want to do that. So I'm happy to see them take the Flight of Equinox and not the Fairy Duelist. Plus, Fairy Duelist is cheap enough we can cast it and Chemist's Insight in the same turn, which is extra beautiful. Ooh, Summary Judgment is a pretty good pickup. Unfortunately, their creatures are too big to kill at instant speed because it only does 3 at instant speed. We just die on the crackback if we don't kill them here. No, because Fairy Duelist saves us. But Trollbred, that's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Exact lethal if we didn't have Fairy Duelist. But because we have Fairy Duelist, we're pretty safe to send in here. Unfortunately, the Spybug being a 4/4 means we can only send in with Senate Griffin, which is rough. I guess we could send in both, and then if they block there, then I get to Fairy Duelist to make it a 2/4. I guess, yeah, we get to send in with everybody because of that. I suppose we die to removal this way. Sure. Definitely kill them next turn. See if they top deck removal. It has to be removal that's cheap enough that they can upgrade the Trollbred Guardian and cast the removal spell. Nope, that's Exactsies. Or it has to be removal that does 2 damage to us when they cast it. Wow. Brutal ending to today's Ravnica Mixer Sealed, but that's how Magic is sometimes. Start with the 3-0 into the 0-3. Some really bad beats there. But I'll take it. 3-3 average run here. Just unfortunate that sealed events have really bad payout until you hit 6 wins. Unfortunate stuff. Here's another look at the deck here. I do think we probably built one of the strongest decks we could with the sealed pool. I think the deck is really nice. We just had some real bad beats there. Maybe didn't play it out as well as we could have. Play a little more conservatively and stuff. And maybe play it safer and we can get the wins there. But if we played it safely there, I don't know. Because if we play it safe there and we just attack with a single 4-2, we're still never getting through their big menace flyer, and then they can still just start removing our other creatures. I don't know, that one felt like it was going to go wrong either way, but you never know. Definitely the way that we played did not pan out for us there. And some of the other losses were some really bad beats. Deafening Clarion for the big Wrath effect. Incredibly hard to beat Wrath effects in Limited. And our other loss was some really bad draws at the start for a super slow start. When we're playing somewhat of a tempo-y, aggro-y deck where our early game does matter a decent bit, at least getting things off the ground running, starting to chip away at our opponent's life total as quickly as possible with our flyers. So, rough time in the end, but a pretty great start with the deck. Not unhappy with the deck, just unhappy with the performance or maybe my choices during gameplay. But I think the deck itself, pretty cool. Pretty fun stuff. And not a bad sealed Ravnica Mixer deck. Well, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. And I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.